Well, we meet everyone. Hi, everyone. How are you? It's nice to meet you.
There's
I
a
see.
high cat, huh?
Yes, this is Chandler. He says hi. He hears me talking, he gets excited and comes up here. I see we have some new faces here in the audience. It's nice to meet everyone. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Um, I'm very curious to get to know everyone here and see how we can kind of keep an open dialogue with Alberto's presentation. Um, Before we get started, I would love to first introduce myself and introduce our special guest facilitator today. First off, my name is Daniel Valdez. I'm a project manager here at Celeritas Digital, and every month we hold a webinar to discuss the intersection of technology and animal health. Today, we're talking about how leadership fuels veterinarian success. This comes at a great time when we're seeing a lot of burnout towards the holidays. So I really want to keep this a productive conversation where we can all kind of participate actively. And I know Alberto is very excited to share his perspective on this. So I want to give a brief introduction to Alberto. But first off, this is a long time in the making, everyone. So I want to give a big thank you to you, Dr. Rullan, for sticking with us. I know we originally planned to do this, I think back in September, right? And then there was a big hurricane, Alberto, and then we caught back up in October. Luck would have it, another hurricane, but Dr. Rullan is here. He's doing well. He's stuck with us, and we're so excited to have him on today to talk about leadership. And I just want to say he was formerly my neighbor, maybe not at the same time, but I'm out of Philadelphia right now. He was a graduate of UPenn for the School of Veterinary Medicine. He works in equine rehabilitation, and he owns Performance Equine Veterinary Services, which he founded in 2009, has a mission of diagnosing and treating performance-related challenges in horses, among many other things. And I would love to introduce him, have him introduce himself, and start the conversation. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, Dr. Rullan.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the invite. I'm extremely honored to be here. It's my goal to add as much value to everyone as I can, and I hope this presentation does so. You let me know when you want me to start, or if you want to wait for any more comers, or keep going.
Feel free to start, and we'll let everyone in as they come.
Okay, awesome. So obviously my name is Alberto Rullan, and my journey to become a horse veterinarian, I would say started about 35 years ago. In reality, has not been a very easy journey. It's been some of the toughest times of my life, but actually also some of the best times of my life as well. And when I look back, I have no idea how I ended up where I am today, because I had no clue of what I was doing. Um, and this is my in the next several minutes, I'm going to tell you pretty much all my story, and I'm going to tell you the principles that I used to be where I am. And this is my horse Tauri in this picture. And in this picture, I was 6 years old. And by then I had 6 years of riding experience. Um, when one day I came home from school, and my grandma, with tears in her eyes, she's like, "Oh, Alberto, Alberto, I have some terrible news." I said, "What happened?" And she she said, "Your dad was riding your horse, and they were ran over by a truck." I said, "What happened to my horse?" She looked away and she said, "He has a broken leg, and we're waiting for someone to help." The next day, I found out that my horse suffered for hours and hours before he was able to be sent for heaven. And I just couldn't stand that my horse suffered for so long because there was not one veterinarian in my town to help him. So that day, I made a decision, right? I have to become a veterinarian. And that's how everything began. However, when I was about 16 years old, I came up with my first challenge to becoming a veterinarian. I found out that I had to go to the United States to become a veterinarian because there was no vet schools in Puerto Rico. And that sounds simple enough, except I didn't know anybody in the United States. I didn't have any money, and I didn't even speak English. Can you tell? Right? So, but I did have one thing, right? I had passion. I had blind passion. Stupid, blind, unrelentless passion. And that is something that it remains so close with me because it doesn't matter what, I was going to become a veterinarian. And passion is like blinkers on a horse. It makes you just look ahead with absolutely no desire or wish to see anything else but to accomplish your passion, right? And Zig Ziglar says a goal that is casually set is really abandoned at first obstacle. Well, my goal was not casually set, and it was not going to be abandoned at first obstacle. It wasn't going to be abandoned at any obstacle. I was not going to give up. So, but passion makes things very interesting because I finally was able to get to the United States, and I went to college, and I was admitted to a college in the United States, and I suddenly realized that becoming a veterinarian was actually going to be way more difficult than I expected. And the reality was that I was always hungry, I was always short of money, and even though I was starting to pick up the language, the textbooks and the technical textbooks were nowhere. I was nowhere able to understand it. But passion fuels the purchase. So what I did is I started figuring out how can I do this. So I started translating and transcribing all my books, and that's how I was able to understand the language. I was able to make sacrifices. So I started sacrificing everything I knew, everything I had, including sports, including social activities, everything, to make sure that my goal and my passion was actually fulfilled. And the way I look at this is like if you're flying on a plane, right? And you get moved from first class, from economy to first class, you didn't sacrifice your economy seat, right? You were upgraded. You sacrificed your economy seat, but you were upgraded because you wanted to get somewhere. That's kind of how I look at sacrificing something. You have to sacrifice something in order to be able to accomplish something else. And of course, nothing is too much trouble if you have enough passion. That is a given. I coach a lot of students on this topic, and I ask them, hey, when I and I call it the law of passion. When I tell them, what do you want? When these new veterinarians, these new graduates, what do you want? How much do you want it? What are you willing to give up in order to have it? Right? What do you want? How much do you want it? What are you willing to give up in order to have it? And if the answer comes quickly, I know their passion is strong and they're gonna be all right. They're gonna get far. But if they don't, I know their struggle. I eventually made it to graduated from college and graduated from vet school. My brother came with me to the United States. My mom after I graduated, and we were living the dream. And for another 89 days, everything was going just as planned. Then in the day 90, my brother was admitted to the hospital. and no one could figure out what was wrong with him. The labs were all very inconclusive, and I never forget the moment the doctor came to the elevator, and she told us, "Hey, we know now that William has cancer." I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. The whole world disappeared in front of my eyes, and I couldn't believe that my brother could actually, at the age of 22, could lose his life. I thought we were partners. I thought we were gonna live forever. And he had come to work with me in the United States, and we were finally living the dream, finally living our passion. And I never forget my mom and me sitting at the hospital for about 100 days, just contemplating the idea that my brother could die at any moment. And that day made me, that experience made me look at life different. I have now graduated from college and vet school. I had $300,000 in student debt, and I was making probably around $70,000. And things were not getting any better. As a matter of fact, they were getting worse. But the good news was that my brother had recovered. Everything came well. He got into an experimental treatment, and he received stem cell treatment, and it went actually very, very, very well. So we have decided that because we were now in financial trouble, we only had one option. And that option was to start our own business. And sure enough, that's how our business started. And starting a horse business in Ocala was very easy. Everybody has horses in Ocala. There are more horses in Ocala than there are people, actually. And now I was finally going to get paid what I wanted. I was going to be able to do what I wanted, right? And I was going to be able to accomplish everything I wanted to. With the exception that I didn't realize that owning a business is very different than practicing veterinary medicine. Because now, as a business owner, I had to start thinking about dealing with clients, managing complaints, getting payments, right? And so many things that I had no idea I needed to do as a business owner. And on top of that, managing my staff was driving me crazy. I was extremely overwhelmed with my assistant, William, my accounting director, Alberto, right? My marketing director, Alberto, my financial director, Alberto, my horse walker, Alberto. And the managing of all these people was really driving me crazy, literally. And I started drinking. And I started drinking more and more. And I started going to parties, getting overwhelmed and drowning my sorrows on alcohol. Then the doctor thought that I was depressed. So he prescribed me medication for depression. And then I started drinking and taking pills. Everybody around me knew I was in trouble, but I couldn't see it. And it happens that I was not alone. I was definitely not alone. And in the United States, there is no secret that the veterinary profession is in trouble. I was in trouble. The veterinary profession is in trouble. And the suicide rate is obviously very high. The depression rate is obviously very high. And I don't know why actually this is 100%. Nobody really knows, but they have a lot of ideas, right? So they think it's overwork. They think it's overwhelming. They think it's the euthanasias. Blame it on whatever you want to blame it. I was about to be part of that statistic. All right. So I remember one day I stumbled out of the bar, got in my car, and I was pulled over for speeding. And I remember that day like it was tomorrow. In that jail cell, man, jail can be sobering in so many ways. I remember looking at the ceiling, thinking about whose fault is this? How did it happen? Why did it happen? I was looking for someone to blame. But in reality, in the long run, I was able to come out to an agreement. I was able to realize that yes, I was in trouble, but the only person that was able to gonna get me out of that trouble was myself. Blaming somebody else was actually not going to do anything for me. And it's when I learned this responsibility law, what I call, which is that we either accept life as it is, or we accept the responsibility of changing it. Well, I was definitely ready to make a change. And Jim Rohn tells me, don't wish life were easier, wish you were better. I was for sure done wishing life were easier, and I was ready now to double down and figure out what did I need to do to make my life better. Because the biggest realization that I had that day was that no one was coming to save me. I was going to have to figure it out myself. Now, this is when I stumbled onto another leadership principle. And life, I realized life is like the Chinese bamboo tree. Do you know that the Chinese bamboo tree takes 5 years to develop an underground network of roots? This is an intricate and complex process of development for 5 years. But when it sprouts, it shoots out 80 feet above the ground in just about 6 weeks. This is because it is a process. It is a process. And this is when I stumble with John Maxwell, who talks about the law of process. And in the law of process, what John Maxwell tells us is that success doesn't happen in a day. It happens day by day, every day. An acorn is not going to become an oak tree just because it has a passion to become an oak tree. It has to develop, it has to evolve, it has to be nourished, and it has to become an oak tree. And it doesn't happen overnight, it happens every day. So far, I have discussed with you 3 success and leadership principles, which I call the law of passion, the law of responsibility, and the law of process. These success principles is what I call me leadership. This was taught to me by one of my mentors, Brandon Dawson, right? Me leadership is when we have our own self-realization and we are able to go from a transition to a transformation into our new me, a new person that is able to accomplish better, bigger, and faster things. Now, for the rest of the conversation, I am going to start focusing on something that Brandon calls we leadership. And we leadership is when we talk about leading others. Okay, so there is no question about it that when we are in leadership, we are in the people business, right? There is the leadership. What does a leader do? A leader gets results through others, right? That is what we do. And most importantly, they do it with the use of time, always giving your best. No question. When you're in leadership, you are in the people business. And Dr. John Maxwell, and I highly recommend this book to all the audience, in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, he pointed out very, very elegant all the irrefutable laws with a lot of great examples of how a leader can become a great leader. And one of the things that I have learned is the Pareto Principle. For those of you who don't know Pareto, I think it came up from in the 1890s, Vilfredo Pareto in the 1890s. And he was an Italian guy who made some very interesting observations. He observed that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the people. So, but interestingly enough, he also observed that 80% of the crops were coming from 20% of the plants. So he keep investigating. It happens that these actually develop a principle. 80% of the traffic is in 20% of the road. 80% of your income comes from about 20% of your clients. So we come to the conclusion that 20% of the effort given into an activity yields 80% of the results. Now, conversely, the rest of the 80%, the rest of the 100 is the 80% of that effort. And be very careful, because 80% of your effort will yield only 20% of the results. So let me give you another example. If we have 10 activities, prioritized 1 through 10, the top 20% of the activities will provide you 80% of the result. So you use this principle to realize that the rest of the 80% of the activities will only give you 20% of the results. So great, now that we know this, let's keep our effort. Wouldn't it make more sense to keep our effort in what's going to give us 80% of the results? I encourage everybody to do a daily audit of your activities and prove this fact, which I have proven and many of my leaders have proven. John Maxwell says that most people are doing too many things and they're doing the wrong things. And that is actually, I have been able to prove that myself, because like we say before, 20% of the efforts provide 80% of the results. So the question is, whether is your calendar full, or who is actually filling your calendar? Is it that 20% or is it that 80%? So how do we solve this problem? How do we take advantage of this knowledge? The best way to improve your life is then work on your priorities, right? Because no one manages time. We all have the same 7 days in a week, but you can manage your priorities. The richest person in the planet has 7 days in a week. The CEO of Apple have 360 days in a year, most years, right? You and me have 168 hours in a week. Prioritizing how we use those hours is what's going to make a difference in our goals, in our life, in our leadership. So the quickest way to change your life is to understand this principle and live by good priorities. So the next time that you are filling your appointment calendar, just try filling it up with your priorities, not necessarily by filling up the time. That is a great leadership principle that I have adopted, and it has worked extremely well after I did my time audit for 2 weeks, and I was able to realize that I was spending a lot of time in things that were actually not priorities. One thing that I realized and I discovered is that one of my priorities as a leader was to develop people. After I developed myself, like I told you in my introduction, I needed to develop people. But I also realized that I needed to continue my self-development. And a great realization is exemplified by this picture, is because the fact that we get older doesn't mean that we get wiser. Everybody gets taller. Everybody has the potential of getting taller. Everybody has the potential of getting older, but not everybody gets actually wiser and smarter just automatically. That needs to be done intentionally, right? So it takes me to the next subject that I want to talk, which is, are we reaching our potential? Is our staff or the people that we are leading reaching our potential? Are we prioritizing the development of our people, right? Is our potential, if our potential is 100%, just for fun, let's do a little exercise here because we have time. Where do you think you are in your potential right now? I'm going to look at the chat. What percentage of your potential are you using? Bear with me over here and repeat it. For those of you who were half asleep, I'm going to repeat the question. What potential of yourself are you using right now in life in general? Oh, this. Give me a number. Someone put it in the chat.
It's I'm gonna be the first to admit it. I think maybe like
Do it.
currently 6% maybe at most.
Write it in the chat. I want to see who's brave enough to write in the chat.
Can someone beat me on that?
So Daniel, did you say 60%?
Yeah, and that's without a formal timeline. So now I'm gonna have to.
Okay, that's good. So in the research, that's good. 60% is pretty good. On average, they went to about 45%. So you are definitely above average, right? And there you go. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hasan. Hasan 50%. Thank you, Hasan. So we have a high compared to average. We have a higher than average people, but in average they say it was about 40%. Okay, so but this is what I'm trying to make. This is the point that I'm trying to make. If we know that a lot of people, most people are not at 100% potential, what would happen if our people and ourselves give an extra 10%? Just think about what would happen if we go up 10%. And the analogy that I get is when you have employees, or when we are employees, I have been an employee many times. I compare it to watching a car, because no one watches a rental car the same way that they watch a car that they own, right? When you own a car, you watch it better, you're much nicer to it than when you rent it. So what if we can convince all of our employees, everybody that we lead, all of our mentees, to actually take ownership of their post, right? So because people are the greatest and the largest expense in most organizations. So the goal, when this is a really cool graph and example that I use, when the boss is coming and he asks, why aren't you working? And the employee says, well, I didn't see you coming, right? Wouldn't it be ideal that all employees are working to their potential, and actually they don't have to wait on us, the leaders, to actually start working and do the work that we want them to do? So it's not what your team does when you're there, but what are they doing when you're not there? Because if I am an employee, if I'm a leader, I want the employee to realize, okay, if I hold back, who loses? My company loses, yeah. My boss loses, yeah. Our customer loses. But the biggest loser, if I hold back, is myself. And that's what I'm trying to portray. That's what I want. That's what we as leaders want them to understand, right? So if I give my best, Who wins? The company wins, my boss wins, our customers win, but most importantly, me, I win. So if we as leaders are able to provide this kind of mindset, it's amazing, right? So that's why I tell everybody, hire for attitude, train for scalability. You hire, you use the good attitude of the employee. So you look for those people that have a great attitude, because those are going to be the greatest leaders. And then you actually teach them for scalability. You train them. And there's always people looking for more opportunity. There's always people in your own company looking for more opportunity. I could not say this enough, but when you're a leader, you are in the people business, right? This is one of the main points of this talk. When you're a leader, you are in the people business, and leadership is nothing else than getting results through others and making others success easily. That's what leadership is. The lowest point, and this graph might be a little bit difficult to understand, I realize, but the lowest leadership position is when someone gives you a position. This is when someone ends up with a degree, when someone ends up with a manager position. But this person needs to cross this line up, and this person needs to earn that position. And I hope that makes sense. In the 5 levels of leadership, John Maxwell talks about that. And my summary is that sometimes we have a position that we have earned, a degree, letters, VMD, DVM, some sort of leadership position, manager, but it's not until we have proven to our team that we are leaders, and then our team recognizes that we are their leaders, and then they allow us to lead them. And that's the important thing as a leader. And that is done through influence, okay? Influence is so important as a leader. And how do you influence people? You influence them by connection. You have to connect with them. There's no question about it. And in the same book that I showed you earlier, the 21 Laws of Leadership, John Maxwell talks about the law of connection. And the law of connection tells us that for us to be able to influence people and to be able to gain their trust, to be able to lead them, we have to connect with them. And how do we do that? We do that by adding value to people. So as a leader, everything that we're doing is trying to add value to our juniors, to our mentees, to our team members. How do we do that? Well, we have to be curious. We have to ask. We have to make them think. We have to realize, we want them to realize that we care for them. They have to realize that we care for them, because these are the questions that every employee, every junior, every mentee is asking. Do you care for me? Can you help me? And can I trust you? These questions are subconsciously or consciously being asked in our employees' mind every single day. So how do we do that? We're interested in them, right? I'm going to give you a tool that you can do. You can have one-on-ones every 2 weeks at our clinic. We have one-on-one where we mentor our staff, and we ensure that they are aligned with the company and they're actually accomplishing their personal, professional, and financial goals while they're helping the company to accomplish the goals as well. Another thing that we do is we build their confidence. We got to make sure that they are at their top level at all times. So an interesting thing that we do, and I learned from Mr. John Maxwell, is that when we are talking to our employees, when we are mentoring, when we are working with our team members, do we give them a 10 in the scale of 1 to 10, or do we give them a lesser value? Let me give you a story, and I'll be quick, I promise you. They did a school research, and they took several teachers randomly, right? And they told these teachers, all right, you have been selected. You are the best teachers there are. And they give them the lowest score students. And they told them, okay, you are the best teachers they have, and you're going to have the best students. And these are your students. Then they had another group, and the other group, they didn't tell me anything. So what happened is that these teachers that were randomly selected, and they were told they were the best, and they had the best students, the education was actually very comparable, and the results, capabilities, skills, and competencies were very comparable to the other group of people, to the other students who were actually, quote unquote, more capable, superior. What changed? Why did it happen? That's because there was a belief, there was a belief, right? There is a belief, and this is when we have belief in our juniors as leaders, when we believe we can do it, we raise what John Maxwell talks, the belief lead, we raise our belief lead, and we actually automatically believe in our team members, they do better and we do better. So if we put a 10 in every one of them, they're gonna do way better. So this is a super great quote that I got from Mr. Gotti. If you see a person as they are, you only make them worse. But if you see them as they could be, you help them to become all they can be. This is a fantastic quote that exemplifies how a leader should be. And Danielle, I am almost closing up. I know we're almost short of time. But I wanted to talk about this principle because this is a principle that I like a lot. There are two types of people. There's a thermometer and there's a thermostat. The thermometer is a realist. The thermometer tells you it's 52 degrees. And the thermostat tells you, no, trust me, it's 69 degrees. And the thermometer says, hey, I can prove it, it's 52. And the thermostat tells you, no, it's 69 degrees. Who do you want to be around? Do you want to be around a thermostat or you want to be around a thermometer per type of person who is going to tell you, hey, I'm a realistic, this is what it is? Or the visionary, the thermostat, who's going to tell you what the potential is? Who do you want to be around? What type of leader you want to be? Finally, treat every person that you meet as if they are the most important person in the world and always add value to them. I always take the examples of the dogs. Look at this golden retriever. They are treating everyone. You are the most important person in the world. I would do anything for you. You are awesome. I can do anything for you. You are amazing. What kind of joy and attitude do we get towards them? They're the best executive. They don't speak, they only wag their tail and give you kisses, and we do everything for them. That is what an executive does, right? They're the best executive in the room. However, when you meet a cat that looks like this and does not have the executive attitude, what kind of motivation you want to you get to work for them? In other words, attitude is everything, and it's very difficult to find common ground with others when the only person you're thinking is about yourself. So when you're a leader, the most important thing is to add value to your team members. Be authentic. Know your people, like your people, and trust your people. Because how can they trust you if they don't feel like they know you? Where is this reciprocity going to go, right? So, in summary, there are multiple levels of leadership. It's really easy to get a position. It's really easy to get the letters. It's really easy to get a management position, right? Now, where it gets very interesting is when they give you permission to lead them. And when then you can help them develop. This is a lot harder to do. It's a lot harder to get permission to lead someone. However, it's a lot more rewarding, and the influence that you can put on those people is immense. It's transformational. It's absolutely transformational. So remember that 20% of your efforts will yield 80% of your results. Be the best you can be at any time. And please, please, please one of my advice is to take imperfect action. What do I mean by taking imperfect action? Just do it. Doesn't matter if it's going to be perfect or not. Think about progress over perfection. Do it. Become a leader of yourself, become a leader of your people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that last thing you just said, that's why I love the quote, done is better than perfect. I don't know about you, but I'm so held up by like perfectionism and like, but imperfect action. I like that. I like that term.
I used to be such a perfectionist, and when I have put effort, I have put effort lately on our growth, our personal growth, and our professional growth, and our practice growth, and it makes a huge difference when you actually can appreciate the importance of progress, the importance of progress.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Clay, for joining. Thank you, everyone else who's joined. Any new faces here? I'm seeing familiar faces too. Brandon, I know you had joined a little late. I hope you got to catch the last bit. Dr. Rullan, are you comfortable with sharing out the presentation if anyone wants to request it from you?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely,
any other,
absolutely.
any other resource thing?
Let me put here my email.
Yeah, please. And
My
then I can always just paste in the chat your LinkedIn as well, so people can chat with you after this.
yes, absolutely.
And
The
thank
idea.
you again. It's truly appreciated. Okay, there's Alberto's email if you want a copy of the presentation from today, or if you have any other questions for him. I just put in his LinkedIn so you can connect with him on there. And let me put my LinkedIn as well. I would love to connect with everyone here. And if anyone has any ideas for future speakers, we're always open to that as well, or future topics. That's my LinkedIn there. And I also want to give a moment if anyone has any questions or anyone wants to put anything in the chat. If not, I have one more thing to say. But yeah, let's see if anyone has any questions. I'll give it a minute.
One
Uh,
of the most common questions I get when I talk about leadership, Daniel, is that they there is a painful process in becoming a leader, and that is a transition before you go into that transformation, right? And many people back off and give up too soon on that at that point. And I like to encourage everybody that is aspiring to become a leader to continue and also to find mentors that can help them improve the leadership. I have owned a company for over 10 years, and I didn't realize I was stuck. I was so stuck, it was not even funny. And it wasn't until I humble enough to say, hey, there gotta be somebody out there that knows more about this than I do. How to lead people, how to help them. And that transition was so painful, but so rewarding at the same time. So I really encourage everybody to just don't give up, because no one is born a leader. We are all born babies, but we can learn leadership.
right. And the mentorship is a huge part. You're absolutely right about that too. And I know last month we had a great conversation on a similar topic. And I don't know if you know Dr. Christy Cornelius. She was our guest then and had some great points on the same thing, as well as
Okay.
one you made about just curiosity and the importance of being curious.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really can separate someone who you feel like is part of a leadership team versus someone who feels like on the outside. But anyway,
100%.
I know on time, and I really do appreciate everyone that was able to join. I have one special message just to kind of leave you guys with. We're actually working on a something called Tailblazer AI, which is cutting administrative work in half. Basically, we're seeing a lot of overwhelm in veterinary clinics with these administrative tasks, and using Tailblazer AI as a management platform for clinics that kind of can streamline operations with intelligent automation, AI-assisted documentation, and workflow optimization. We're working on getting integrated with different social media platforms for marketing tools that we're using on this. And we're offering exclusive beta access for a 30-day free pilot to everyone who's here. You'll get priority feature development input as well, and personalized onboarding support. We're only selecting a handful of clinics for this, and I hope that you guys can join in. Let me put in the link to sign up on in the description here, or in the chat here. And if anyone is interested in getting signed up for this, you can contact me or Shahir or Taha. We're all helping out people with getting set up on this for its pilot program to help with adding features. And yeah, so let's give a little bit of an overview of some of the specific features. So we have 3 sections so far. We have a marketing section, an admin section, and a clinical section. The marketing section gives you the ability to, after you put in all the information about your clinic, you can put in prompts to get Instagram post copies, copy for Facebook posts, email newsletters, Google Business Profile posts, and educational blog posts, all that are prompted based off of your input and the information from your clinic that you're giving the AI assistant. And then we have the admin section, which allows you to create forms, generate holiday messages, calculate calorie requirements for pets. And the clinical side is our 3rd section, and allows differential diagnoses and wellness program development. And this is all based on AI. It streamlines all of these things that you would usually be taking a lot more time. It is better with certificate. Yeah, it takes, all of the time suck that you've experienced with a lot of these extra tasks, and kind of offshoots it so you can have better client care one-on-one in your clinics. And so we're looking forward to getting the details on how that's helping clinics, and what we can do to further refine the software. And yeah, so once again, the sign up is in the chat, and if you want more information as well, you can always email me. I'll put my email in the chat there. And with that being said, is there anything else that anyone wants to add?
So Daniel,
we
if we contact you, we reach that email.
What is that?
Yeah, the best way to contact you with that email that you put in there.
Yes. Okay. Well, with that, we have a very shy audience today. That's okay. With that, I want to say thank you everyone for joining. I want to say a big extra thank you to Dr. Rullan for making this happen. I know this was a long time in the making, and so thank you for the wonderful presentation, and look forward to chatting soon, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me very much. I think that is very interesting what you just say. So I'm writing you an email right away so you can give me a demo on the marketing one.
Looking forward to it. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.